Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
I just wanted to take a few minutes to have you address some of the concerns and questions that have been coming over our social media pages pretty much regarding the protest that was held here last Thursday.
Right. Okay.
First, a lot of people are asking why you let these people break the law.
You know, it's funny, and when you talk to me about sitting down and having this conversation, I thought long and hard about it, but I think it's important. I think it's important that this department is transparent in what we do. I think we've set the tone here for the last couple of years about being open and transparent. We even sent out a media release letting people know that this group was coming here. So if you bear with me just for a second, the number one priority that any chief of police does and any law enforcement organization is to protect their citizens, to make sure that they're safe. And I understand, and certainly got phone calls and several emails, the city got several emails for individuals that heard about this protest, that heard about this demonstration, this rally, if you will, of individuals, this group called the Boogaloo Boys, I believe that would be coming to the city with assault rifles and firearms. And it concerns citizens, as it should. Even some elected officials emailed some concerns and texted us. I like that because people feel that they can reach out to us and share those concerns. I think that's important. But the second thing for me is to make sure to reassure them. That's why I sat down with our media relations office. We crafted a message to send out to the media and send out to our community to let them know what was happening. Now, I will tell you, I would much rather have individuals who are going to demonstrate with those type of weapons come to police headquarters than be anywhere else in the city. I would rather them be here than at City Center, around our mall. I would rather them be here as opposed to being in our neighborhoods and our streets. So that was number one. Second thing is I think there was some confusion, some communication about the ordinance. So let's talk a little bit about why they were here. This is not anything to do with race. And it bothers me that some in social media have tried to turn it into that. So we're going to clear that up today. I want to be very, very direct. The reason that they were here protesting was because of an ordinance about firearms. The reason they were here is because an individual in that group was arrested 7 days prior, last Thursday. Our ordinance lays out that you cannot carry a firearm, open carry a firearm, in a city facility or any park, city park. So and I've got that ordinance right here. It's online. Anybody can look at it. You cannot carry a firearm in a city park. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. That's what happened 2 Thursdays ago. An individual tried to attend an event. He was stopped and said, you can certainly come in, but you cannot bring your firearm in here. And this is important. I don't mean to talk long, but this is important. And they just asked him to put the firearm in the trunk of his car, secure it in his vehicle, and he could come into the event. He openly said he didn't want to do that. They had a good conversation. The park rangers explained that to him. They called the police. We explained it to him. That's all on body-worn camera. He refused, and he was arrested. Because of that arrest and enforcing the city ordinance that our elected officials passed in our city, he was taken into custody as a court date. He then contacted the police department he had put on media that he was going to have a protest demonstration and called for individuals with firearms to express their Second Amendment right in defiance of the ordinance to come here and protest at the police department. He was protesting, that group was protesting because an individual was arrested for a firearms charge. A lot of citizens had concern about why we would allow that. You cannot have a firearm in a city park, and you cannot have a firearm in a city facility, a building, school, courtroom, city hall, council chambers. You are allowed to have a firearm on city property. You are allowed to be in a parking lot, and that's where they were. They were not allowed to come into the building. We had that conversation with them early that morning, but they are allowed to be in the parking lot. As a matter of fact, Kelly, when we had our full briefing, I invited the city attorney here. I talked to them through a Zoom meeting, and our other city attorney was in the room for everyone to hear, and I asked that to be very, very clear. And he referred to me to section 4, and I'm just going to read this. Any public street, forbidden, any public street, road, alley, sidewalk, or public right-of-way or other place wherever nature that is open to the public and is being used for a city-sponsored event. So if we would have had a street festival, if we would have had a block party, if you will, in the parking lot here, they would not have been allowed to carry that firearm. But because it is just a parking lot, they were allowed to. And I made sure that we were very, very clear with the city attorney in the drafting of this ordinance. So there was no law violated. Now, it's understandable that there were some communication issues because when they arrived Monday morning and met with myself and Chief Randall, that they believed they were going to be arrested when they walked onto the property. And I think that diffused some things. So I think the first thing is why they were here is because there was an arrest of enforcing this ordinance that our elected officials passed about having a gun in a city park or inside a city facility. Because that arrest was made, it was put out to bring people here to protest this ordinance, the gun ordinance. They did not violate the law in any way by being on the parking lot. And I cleared that with the city attorney's office. And we explained that to them, and it was a surprise to them. So I believe the first part is that there's some communication issues about what the ordinance is and what it actually states. But I wanted to make that clear, is why they were here, why they chose the police department, why we put out a media release, because I wanted to be transparent. I know that citizens were concerned when they saw it, and I wanted to make sure that everyone understands what the ordinance in Newport News is.
Great. Another big thing that they're talking about is the fact and suggesting that if it was perhaps a Black Lives Matter group that came here to protest anything, that they would have been arrested, as they said they were at the recent Trump rally.
So we talked a little bit about the individuals. I had an interview that night after the rally was over. This in no way had anything to do with race. In no way would I completely against anyone thinking that it does. Through the last 6 or 7 months, we've probably had, I think our last count is 44 to 45 protests, demonstrations, rallies. In those, whether it has been Black Lives Matter or other local organizations, church groups, people with students with CNU, coaches walking to talking about police reform in correlation with what happened in Minneapolis with Mr. Floyd, what happened in Atlanta, what happened in Wisconsin. We've also had demonstrations almost daily at the Tech Center. There's been youth that have done demonstrations up and down Jefferson Boulevard, Jefferson and Warwick Boulevard. Several marches. Out of those 42, 43, 45, whatever the actual number is, we have not had to make any arrest at all. Even the Trump rally. After the president was here, there was a protest and demonstrations. We'll talk about in just a minute. Let's go back to the gun rally here. It was not about race, it was about a city ordinance. And the individuals, although predominantly were white males, there were also females and there were African Americans that donned firearms. In fact, one of the local Black Lives Matter organizers was here. One that I've sat down and talked with, one that I've walked with, individual that I have had long conversations with, that I've done photographs, shook hands, and we may disagree on some things, but even in those times we're able to sit down and talk together. So it would bother me that anyone would suggest that. I didn't hear any conversation, or I haven't seen any emails of the other 43 demonstrations, rallies, or protests that we've had where we're walking in the middle of the street, where we're on the sidewalk, we're on the street corner, when we're taking a knee, when we're having conversations. No one was arrested then, and we were able to put some things in place to protect individuals. One of the things we have is when we have marches or demonstrations, rallies, and I use those three because however you look at them. When we were in the street, one of our main priorities, again, is to make sure that the public's safe. So I like to have police cars behind individuals moving in the street, and as long as they're moving, I can put a barrier between individuals walking and police cars and or traffic that's flowing the same direction, so no one gets hit, right? Or we would even put what we call a bubble around them, 2 vehicles in the back, 1 or 2, 3 vehicles at the side, and a vehicle in the front. That is solely for their protection. I have seen across in other states other localities where individuals have ran into crowds, and I don't know if they mean to hit people or they're scared, they don't know what to do, they want to get out. Regardless, I don't want to see anyone get hurt, motorists, civilians, or people's in the middle of a protest. And I would bet in 95% of the protests and demonstrations we've had in this city, I have walked with groups, so that we have good dialogue and you get to see a difference of opinion, hear people's thoughts. And then you also, a lot of times, even when we were called to assist with some protests and demonstrations in Hampton, those individuals have come here, we've sat down and they said, Chief, we think you should do these 7, 8, 9, 10 things. And about 90% we're already doing. Some citizens don't know that we have body-worn cameras. Some citizens don't know that we don't use chokeholds. Some citizens don't know that we have duty to intervene. And that's okay. That's why we have conversations. And to me, and I think this is important, any conversation is better than any confrontation. But to keep citizens safe, so I want to go back to when the president was here about a month ago. Individuals were attending the rally at the airport. There were a group of demonstrators, protesters, back and forth. There were some words back and forth. In this uniform and this badge, we don't take a side. Our job is to keep people safe in this city. After the rally was over, it took us a lot of time to get traffic out because there were the individuals attending. The individuals who were protesting or demonstrating, they again went on the street and started walking on Jefferson Avenue with the flow of traffic. I went on the radio and said, as long as they're moving in traffic, please put a barrier behind them. I don't want to see anyone get hurt, and keep traffic moving. And it slows vehicle traffic down, but at least there's a barrier between those that are walking in the street with the flow of traffic, officers behind them in marked vehicles, lights on, and then vehicle traffic behind them. Came over the air that those same individuals had now crossed over and were walking. This is about 11:30 at night. Those same individuals had crossed over and were now walking into oncoming traffic at 11:30 at night. That is very different. It's a game changer. Going back to, sometimes people panic and they hit the gas and drive through the crowd, whether it's to get away or to intentionally hurt someone, I don't know. But that causes us great peril of how to protect people. Protesters in the middle of the street walking in traffic, one, it's against the law, and two, it's dangerous. Other citizens, it's dangerous. For people driving, it's dangerous. They don't know what's coming. They turn the corner, they don't know what's coming. You're driving 45 miles an hour and you walk in the middle of the night, 11:30, to a group walking towards you. In fact, we had one vehicle that swerved and hit another car. Now I'm asking officers to get in between the two to keep everyone safe, and now they're in danger. I told officers, now I was still inside the airport. I had captains and assistant chiefs that were on the street, and I told them, give them commands to get back on the right side of the road. If they don't, we will have to make arrests. 8 times they were told to get back on the right side of the road. I'm okay if they're on Jefferson Avenue and they're walking, I can facilitate that. At least I can keep people safe. It is very, very difficult to keep people safe when they're walking in traffic. And we've seen, again, where vehicles have run into individuals, and we've also seen where vehicles have been kicked and damaged. I'm not saying that would have happened, but I'm saying I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, so I've got to plan for the best. The only time we had to use any type of police action or enforcement or to interact with people to stop them from what they were doing out of 45 protest demonstrations or rallies is when one group walked at 11:30 at night into oncoming traffic. And I said at the beginning, is when we started talking, my number one priority is to keep people safe. That is the only time. And I will tell you, we detained 3 people and they were all released on a warning. There was no arrest. So when we talk about these two, and I don't even think we should be talking about it in race at all. It has nothing to do with race. The only arrest where a date has been sentenced to court is the arrest of the individual trying to get into the park. And I will tell you, I want to be very, very perfectly clear, and me and Chief Randall told the individuals that morning, we will not allow you to block any entrance to a hospital. We will not allow you to block any entrance to the exit or on-ramps into the interstate. We will not allow you to point those firearms at any individual, law enforcement or citizen, oncoming traffic. We're not going to do any of those type of demonstrations. We will not allow you to get in the road and walk into oncoming traffic. If they would have done that, you would have seen the same action that you did after the president's visit and the demonstration that went on in the streets on Jefferson Avenue at 11:30. That would not have happened. But it's also fair that that did not happen. Those individuals that were here at that rally, black and white, displaying firearms, did not violate the law, and they did not put people in danger. They were exercising their Second Amendment right. We had strong conversations, and I will tell you there were some tense times in that conversations when they told me what they wanted to do. But we were able to break the ice, as I have with other individuals who have been very, very frustrated with law enforcement. And it may be because of things going on in other parts of the country, but they're frustrated, and I understand that. And we try to find ways to break the ice. I hope we talk about that a little bit later, but there were some tense moments at the beginning, but we did have things under control, and they did not violate any of our laws or ordinances.
Finally, and talk about breaking the ice, I think this is what you might be talking about. For some reason, we have quite a few people commenting on the exchange of beverages between you and the organizer of the event that happened here. I'm not quite sure why, but
Sure.
You exchanged drinks.
Like I said, there were some tense moments, and I knew concerns that citizens had. I knew what I want to try to do is to find some common ground, not in is that the right word? Ideology, morals, or beliefs, but find common ground where we can have a conversation. I had reviewed several of the posts, and I saw the organizer talk about chocolate milk and tendies, and I didn't know what that was, and I asked him. And immediately when I asked that question, the demeanor of this is what we're going to do and this is why we're here, the demeanor changed, and he started to joke, and he said that it's a way of expression to me was it's a way of that we don't mean any harm, that we have no problem with law enforcement, we're not a violent group, in his words, that we believe in the Second Amendment, we believe the ordinance is wrong. And my conversation went on to talk about it's important to have conversations and not confrontations. So when he de-escalated, or when I felt there was a de-escalation, I teased him a little bit about the chocolate milk and the chicken tendies, which is chicken tenders. There is no, for me, symbolic meaning of any of that. I told him that that's not my drink. My drink, I enjoy drinking Diet Mountain Dew for a long time. Because I'm older and tend to put on weight, I have to drink the diet instead of the regular. And we had that conversation and enlightened things. And we even joked with each other that out of a sign of that we're not here to hurt anyone or break any laws or put anyone in danger. The conversation was, I will bring you a chocolate milk, Nestle, by the way, and or I'll bring you a Diet Mountain Dew, and I will bring you a chocolate milk. I treated those individuals. It was a de-escalation. It was a common ground to have a conversation after the event was over. So I did have some opening comments for them. I basically said the same thing, that as long as you obey the law and don't put anyone in danger, you can have a peaceful demonstration here. But this is what we won't tolerate. Much as I have with any other protest or demonstration, that we try to meet the individuals, organizers ahead of time, talk about what we will allow, what we won't allow. It doesn't matter to me if the individuals here with those firearms were black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't make any difference to me. It was not a race thing. It was an issue about an ordinance. One of the local organizers from Black Lives Matter here in I guess the Hampton Roads, the Tidewater area, was also present the whole time. I talked to him afterwards at the end of the event at 9 o'clock. I went down. I told them all as a group, thank you for being true to your word and not causing any conflict, for not being in the street, for not violating any laws or ordinances. I shook their hands and they left. I shook hands of individuals that were white, that were black, and one of the local leaders of the Black Lives Matter group here that I have talked to several times before. It doesn't matter to me what color individuals are. I think if you know anything about this department, and I think that's important, that diversity, working with people, having conversations. We don't close our doors to anybody. This department serves the city of Newport News. It doesn't matter to me your age, your zip code, your race, where you live. Doesn't even matter to me your ideology. Those things matter. It's kind of the situation, and it was concerning to me when I saw some of these emails that have come through, that law enforcement a lot of times is thrust in the middle. And if you do this, then another group is going to be upset with you. And if you do this, this group is upset with you, regardless of your intentions. I would kind of equate it to an example of where we get that is I'll have a neighborhood that has speeders, and individuals will complain, why does the police department allow individuals to speed through this neighborhood? The pandemic's going on, schools are out, and people are driving 60, 70, 80 miles an hour through my neighborhood that's posted 25 or 30. So what do? For safety, our number one priority, going back to what we talked about, we will do traffic enforcement and stop individuals who are speeding. But I will tell you, as soon as that happens, the next day, citizens, some will complain, why are you exposing officers to people on traffic stops? Why are you enforcing speeding laws and writing tickets when people are out of work and are dealing with the loss of wages? It is both sides. So where's the median, right? Do we enforce the traffic laws and upset this group? Or do we not enforce the traffic laws and upset this group? It's the same thing. It doesn't matter to me who's protesting or demonstrating or what the issue is. We're going to treat every group with respect. As long as the law is not violated and people are not put in danger or risk, we will work with you. And most of the times, I will walk with you. One of the reasons I like walking with you is I think it sends a message to whatever organization that we're willing to have those conversations. And I do think you learn a lot when you meet with people. And I think also that this department sets a tone or an example that we don't have to have violence in our city. That we're able to sit down and have conversations and work on things and make things better and improve. We can all learn from each other. I think a lot of it is communication. A lot of people believe we violated, that group, the Boogaloo Boys on Thursday night, violated the ordinance. They did not. And I got that straight from the city attorney's office as I read it over and over, but I asked them to be here just for clarification. So there was no law violated. Nobody turned a blind eye. And there was no one put in danger. Our citizens were concerned, and I understand that. I would be too. My mom and dad would be worried if a group was coming with long rifles and assault rifles, right? They would be worried. And that's why we sent out the message to the media to be open and transparent about what was happening. But I just wanted, I think it's important that because we interacted, shook hands, the switching of the beverage was a de-escalation. It means nothing to me but a Diet Mountain Dew and a Nestle quick chocolate milk. But now people may see that as different things, and they're entitled to it. But I'm telling you, from my perspective, and what I did was try to keep this community safe, extend a hand to any individuals or any groups that want to protest and demonstrate. It had nothing to do with race. It had nothing to do with city ordinance. It had to do with a demonstration here at headquarters that I interacted with those individuals and had a conversation. We spoke to them just like we would any other group. I will tell you, I don't know if you remember, in the summer there was a group that had a demonstration or protest with elementary kids. And we walked Jefferson Avenue on the sidewalk, right? And a little girl, she wanted to ride her bike. And we said, it's a little dangerous on Jefferson Avenue, right? So her mother reached out to us and said, you know, I kind of like to build unity. And they asked us to do a bike ride. So this Sunday, officers who volunteered their time to come out and ride in Riverview Park on a bike ride. We cooked hamburgers and hot dogs. We did a bike ride. We had young adult police commissioners. Our high school students volunteered their time to come out. Officers volunteered their time to come out. And even me, right, as out of shape as I am, I got on a bike and rode around a little bit with them with a Diet Mountain Dew, and we joked with each other and had a good time. So I didn't mean to get off on that. I think it's important that people know about this department, and I would much rather people pick up a phone and call and talk to me directly as opposed to some of the emails and text messages that I've seen. I think it's communication about the law and their opinions about this department. I think this city our government and our elected officials know what we stand for, what we try to do. Our number one priority is to keep people safe and informed, be transparent, be neutral, and I think that's what we did.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your continuing to be transparent. And if anybody knows you, they definitely know that you always have a Diet Mountain Dew in your hand. So that was no surprise. So
Some of these meetings get long sometimes.
yes. And if people have questions, they can ask us on Facebook or whatnot. Continue to
Sure.
send inquiries through our social media channels or email or call us. Anyhow.
You know, it
So,
reminds me back in the summer when there was an issue with a truck driver that parked here overnight. And the business called and didn't want that truck driver parking there. And officers responded, and immediately upon response, the driver just went off on the officers, cussing at them. This is all you got to do. We even tried to find him another location 3 blocks away where he could park. But the media, the social media I should say, social media, outpoured that, oh, we're harassing truck drivers and they're doing this and they're doing that. I even have family in that industry. That is so untrue. Those officers had body-worn cameras. That is not what happened. And I could have easily released that video. I could have easily ousted the business, but I'm not doing that, right? It was just a communication thing. And people have called, and we've had the same conversation. Oh, Chief, you know what? We didn't realize that. We understand. And it was nothing personal. But I think in social media, you've got to know everything, the facts. And I would just appreciate at least giving us the benefit of the doubt of knowing what this department does, what our history is, what we stand for. And it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with laws and ordinances. And I am always willing to listen with people that have opinions from whatever the issues are or different sides. I think that's what our citizens want, and they deserve. So thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay.